I think anyone who's passionate about music has probably had this experience, right? Where you hear a song for the first time and immediately, right then and there, that very first listen, you're just boom, like your mind explodes. You're just like, what on earth is this? And it fundamentally changes your life. Have you had this experience before?
Yes, several times.
Yeah, I figured as much. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about songs that we have heard that have just like boom and altered the course of your life in some way, whether it's your musical tastes or your views or whatever. And same for people who are watching. I want to hear like your stories about that in the comments, especially if it involves the Scorpions.
Yes, specifically.
and I think you know who will understand what I mean by that. So tell me, give me one of those experiences that you had.
All right, I'm gonna give you the first one to get it out of the way because it's gonna seem so fucking cliche, but it's true.
Okay, if you're gonna say it's cliche, then I might even already be able to guess what it is. But go ahead.
It's one of the most vivid. Literally, I can still remember exactly like where I was and what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana.
I figured, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
My friend Greg was picking me up. He just got his license, so it was like 92 or whatever. And I ran out my front door. I jumped in the seat. And before the door even shut, he's holding a tape and he goes, "You gotta listen to this." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And like prior to this, I was probably listening. I was definitely
Warrant and
all
Skid
hair
Row.
Band shit, all hair band. Yeah. And I'm not knocking it. I love that shit.
No, I
Motley Crue.
I wouldn't knock it. I wouldn't knock it either.
But at the time, that's where I was.
Right.
And when he put it in, we just sat in the street in this car idling, listening. Like I just listened to it, and the tape he had, it wasn't like a cassette. It was just some, especially back then, it was just some fucking copy,
right?
Like
that built the radio or something like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't definitely not on the radio. This was like just some copy from a copy back in the day. This was before it was playing on the radio. So wherever he got it from. But holy crap, yeah. That was like, and then that was just like going to the record stores and trying to find it, going like Palooza. It changed everything. Flannels, ripped jeans.
I do appreciate that there's a real story.
Yeah,
in that regard.
Instead of the
Well, only because over the years, music journalists have sort of mythologized Nirvana and the Nevermind album in particular, and sort of painted it as if it was this flip of the switch, where music went from this to this, and that was it. Like overnight, hair metal died and alternative was born, and where neither of those things were true. Def Leppard had either a number one or number two like several years after that. There were still hair metal bands that were charting, and the alternative scene had been building for years at that point, for many years.
Yeah.
But all that said,
for me,
I love that it
literally was like the cliche switch, like listening to the Beatles for the first time kind of thing. Yeah, it was, because I was in that groove where I was listening to Def Leppard and whatever, and it was great. But when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is weird. This is like a garage band on speed, like some kind of weird. And it made me search. That's what it did. It like made me, and because you couldn't find it, that was what was fun about that whole time, was like, it got me into, like, instead of just watching it on MTV or listening to it on the radio, it was like, well, what is this? Oh, it's this band called Nirvana. Well, I don't know. Like, you might find them in the store. Well, is there other stuff like them?
There was something compelling about the pre-streaming time when you discovered something, you had to go find it.
Yeah, you had to have a friend, or you had to, like, somebody had to have some copy of it. Or...
Yeah, you had to, like, go hunt stuff down. And I think that lent something to the experience, because it sort of forced you to become more engrossed in whatever it was that you were discovering.
Now I cared about
Yeah.
the art of it and like what it looked like, and
because
like,
you had
the
to
name of
invest
the band.
your time and effort into getting that
Yeah.
music rather than just like play. Not to say that there's anything wrong with
No,
streaming.
no.
I love the streaming era.
But even
as well,
back then, like just it wasn't playing on the radio. So back then, remember you'd sit around and wait for some song to come on, kind of thing. Like it wasn't going to come on the radio. So
Right.
the fact that you did have to hunt it down in these weird places usually to find the music.
Right. I have one similar to that from the same era, but that'll come later because I'm going to do this in semi chronologically for me.
I wanted to say just real quick the thing that the other reason it was such a big deal was because I think I've said this to you before, but because of all that, it became mine. It was the first time that the music I was listening to was mine.
Right.
Because Def Leppard wasn't mine. Def Leppard, everybody loved Def Leppard.
Yeah.
But this like music crashed over and it was like, this is fucking my music.
Yeah.
Like my sister isn't listening to it, my brother isn't, my parents hate it. This is my music.
Yeah.
So it was like a very that kind of helped.
Yeah, that's understandable, and I think that's sort of a formative experience for anyone who becomes super passionate about music. Is that connection that you can uniquely feel to something that you have discovered in some way, and that isn't everywhere yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a great experience when you get that. Remember what? So I was lucky enough to grow up in a household with a huge music fan for a father who was into very cutting edge stuff and underground stuff and all that. I mean, even as by the time I was a little kid, his record collection was probably like was well in the thousands. Like
that's crazy.
So
amazing.
I distinctly remember like as a very young kid, like in the 70s, growing up here in the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Clash and stuff like that. The first like non-kid song that I remember considering my favorite song was Driver 8 by R.E.M.
Okay.
So this would have been 1983, 1984. I was like a kid, and it was like, yeah, that's my favorite song because it was about trains. I love trains, and it was about trains. I was like, I love that song. But the one, and the reason why I give that context is because the person who introduced this to me was unintentionally was my father. Was Ted Just Admit It, Jane's Addiction, from Nothing Shocking. I remember was out with a friend. We were out doing whatever the hell we were doing, probably like romping around the woods or something like that. Like whatever the day was before, like our day was before that, has been wiped from my memory because I remember coming into the house with my friend, and my old man is listening to Nothing Shocking, which he had just gotten. 12-inch vinyl back in the day. It's that weird ass cover is up there, and we walked in the middle of Ted Just Admit It, just at the point where the song explodes.
Yeah.
When it hits, that incredible like gross sounding psychedelic guitar that Dave Navarro had, the Stephen Perkins tribal ass drums, that amazing rolling bass line by Eric Avery, and then of course. And the first thing I'm hearing is Perry Farrell shrieking, "Sex is violent."
Sex
over and over again.
violent.
And I was just kind of like, what? What is this? Like
sex is violent?
I was both like horrified by it, but so drawn to it because I just never heard anything like it in my life. It was like, what on earth is this? Like this is like nothing I've heard before. Like it was as hard as the hard rock.
Oh, it's been a while.
It was as hard as the hard rock that I was seeing on MTV, and yet
different.
Yeah. And so I was just immediately like, Dad, I need to borrow that. I need to borrow that record. And he was always very good about like,
letting you.
If he wasn't like, hey, listen to this, then it was like, if I heard something that I liked, he was like, by all means, take it. So, and I guess that would have been 87, 88. And that just totally like sort of changed the course of my music listening.
Right.
At the time, like my own music was bouncing back and forth between like some types of the pop of the day and like the pop metal stuff of the day. So like I really liked Cyndi Lauper. I liked Bryan Adams.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Bon Jovi. But that just and of course I've remained a huge Jane's fan ever since, even though they really only had like a couple of years where they were the best band in the world, and they had been kind of whatever since. But yeah, Ted just admitted Perry Farrell's shrieking sex and is violence. Holy crap! Just like as a relatively young teen, just blew my effing mind.
It's a very good song.
I
am the
killer of people. You look like a meatball. Oh yeah, because of the thing.
Yeah, that's a great song. Well, I wonder what's on my list of number 2.
I knew, like, I figured James was gonna be on there.
And that song would be that song is in my top 3 of their favorite, but that wasn't the first song I heard from them.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, because I got into them later. Like, it's weird because I got into Jane's Addiction. I think after Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I stumbled upon them when I went into that rabbit hole of like, oh, like, what's all this shit? And then I had a friend, Joe, who was like, had all their songs, bootleg versions, like, and was like, dude, here, like, listen to this. And I was like, holy shit. And then fell into that more than the grunge stuff, actually, for a really long time. But the song that I remember him playing for me first was 3 Days.
Oh yeah, God! I think just their
which
masterpiece.
Is like, yeah, I mean that song, and that was just like another moment where, like with Nirvana, where it's like, this is new and even different than that. This is better than that. The
back to back of 3 Days and Then She Did to me is like the 15 minutes or so, maybe a little longer than that, but like their finest moment.
Yeah,
like that stretch of music is to me some of the best stuff ever that anyone has ever done. Incredible.
And that was the first time with their music was the first time I really realized that my favorite style of music is stuff that goes on that like roller coaster ride.
Mm-hmm.
Like where it like starts out a little bit low and then all of a sudden it's here and then all of a sudden it's like ah, and then it goes back down to like low and it's 8, 9, 10 minutes long. Those are all my favorite. Like that, anything song that's like that. Like Blind Melon has that one song. I forget that on that one album that does that. It's like an 8.5 minute song.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like a roller coaster ride. So that's Jane. That moment when Joe played that for me, and I was like, just leaning on his counter in his like kitchen, just listening to this.
Just
for
like, where's it gonna go next?
Yeah, it just keeps going and building and whatever, and then it just coming to that like nice soft ending and being like, can you make me a copy of this?
All right, see, here's one.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking into my friend's house again. We were out walking into my friend's house. We flip on MTV. Yo MTV Raps was on.
Oh shit!
Which we would watch, from time to time.
Right before 120 minutes.
I wasn't like big into hip hop and rap, but I grew up with enough of it. Like in my school playground in elementary school, we would trade tapes that were recorded off the radio in New York, like New York radio. So early on, I was hearing like UTFO and obviously Run DMC but the Real Roxanne and some of that like super old school stuff. And then when the Beastie Boys hit, of course the Beastie Boys were were big. But the one that mind blew me was seeing the video for Public Enemy's Night of the Living Bassheads, which was this like hail of multimedia bullets assaulting the senses. Like the music has this like burn, it's this horn sample that's just repeating, and it's like almost to the point where it's grating. You got these like angry dudes who are in your face in the camera, and you could tell they're talking about like some serious shit. It's intercut with all these weird fake news clips, and the whole song has to do with addiction and drugs being on the streets and stuff like that. And it was just this like super punk rock in your face kind of like things are fucked up and like we have to fix peaches and cream. we have to fix this shit because this is all messed up. And the video was just this sensory assault.
It was an assault.
It was, and I was like, wow, like. Like, who are these guys? This is incredible. Like like I had never seen or heard rap like that before. You know, I knew like Big Daddy Kane and you know EPMD and like whatever. Like old school rap was old school rap. This I had just I had never encountered it before. I was just floored by it because I was like, holy crap! Like this, like they're saying something. There's something here.
Especially growing where we both grew up. When I first heard them, I was like, what? What's going on out there? Like, oh my God, like, is it that bad out? Like, what's going on out there that they're so angry?
Oh, it's excellent. and they ever since, I mean, they've remained, you know, been a gigantic fan ever since. Still am. I actually still, probably one of the few people at this point, still keep up with their current releases because they still do music now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they've never been able to touch that heyday, that trio of albums that they did with "It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back," "Fear of a Black Planet," and then "Apocalypse '91." But like, oh yeah, they just,
that song.
They, you know, that song, and then leading to that record and that band in general, not only it changed my view of what hip hop and rap could be for one thing, because musically, forget, even if you set aside Chuck D's lyrics and like the relevance of you know, this, what he's talking about and all that stuff, even musically, like the sonics of that song were unlike anything that was happening in rap. And that kind of opened my eyes to the idea that like all the rap that I had heard previously was just that old school sort of, here's a beat and maybe there was a simple sample.
Some scratching.
Yes, some scratching, or if you were lucky, maybe it was a Rick Rubin produced thing, so there would be like some samples of guitars in there too, like, you know, like we did with Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and stuff like that. But this was this layered wall of sound, unlike anything I had ever heard before, in which they continued for several albums, where it was just like, oh, like musically, rap can be anything. Public Enemy, you know, and not only just musically, they led me down some rabbit holes as far as like the issues and their politics and so on that have stuck with me all these years as well. But staying on the music subject, they made me become a lot more adventurous in exploring rap and hip hop that wasn't just like what was big at the time.
Yeah, what was being fed to you.
Yeah, you know, yeah. And it kind of made me recognize like, oh, there's a whole world of other stuff out there that's like really cool and interesting. And that's still kind of where my head is today with hip hop. Is like I'd still like exploring that stuff where it's like, oh, like this, you know, like musically this is fantastic.
Yeah, it still changes. I mean, it's stuff that my son in particular listens to. Sounds nothing like what any of the stuff that I, you know, like and you can't really say that much when it comes to like rock or anything, because it's been in the same, it changes but it stays mostly the same. But the rap, some of the stuff he listens to, I'm like, wow, this is like way different. And
I mean, because again, like musically you can do anything.
Yeah.
You could do anything. There's jazzy rap. There's noise rap, like Death Grips.
Mumble rap.
There's mumble rap stuff. There's now like, you know, like emo rap and stuff. Where
so there's a lot of categories.
There's not, you know, like these really distinct beats and just it's a really
which
broad
is cool.
It's a really really broad category. It's one of these things where you know, you'll often hear people say, I don't like rap. I don't like country or whatever, and it's like, well, no, you haven't, like, you don't like the narrow band of things that you've heard.
Yeah.
That's not to say that like there's going to be something out there for everybody, but it's just more to the point of like these are much broader categories than I think the average listener is giving them credit for. There's a lot of variety. Like country is the same sort of thing. Like do I like the country that I hear on the radio right now? Oh, absolutely not.
No.
But there's some absolutely fantastic shit out there if you
look for it.
If you
talk to people that are in the country, like they know,
and if you know what you like in country, because again, it can be very broad.
Right.
Like, you know, do you like the Grand Ole Opry style country? Do you like the outlaw country of the '70s? You know, do you like sort of the poppier stuff? Do you like the really twangy storytelling stuff? Or like there's so many. There's a lot that's more rooted in Americana or bluegrass. There's like the whole alt country scene, which, you know, mixes sort of alternative rock and country. And like Sunvolt is a great crossover band in that way. Where Uncle Tupelo, who was the predecessor of both Sunvolt and Wilco, like they sort of like were called alt country.
I'm curious, how many people do you think watching know any of those bands you just named?
No, Wilco has an excellent following. I'm sure they know that stuff. Yeah. Some people will, and if they don't,
now they
more
can
to the
search
point,
them out.
yeah, like check this stuff out.
I'm in that boat when it comes to country, where I'm not a fan of country music, but the outlaw '70s stuff and
I like
that stuff is good.
I like Merle Haggard. Of course I like Willie, because who doesn't like Willie?
Yeah,
like I love Willie. But okay, so here's a recommendation for you. And these guys aren't straight ahead country, so I think that they're a good sort of entryway. Is a Sun Volt.
Okay.
Sun, not UN but ON. Sun Volt. You can like check out any one of their records, though I kind of most recommend the second record, because it had like their one and only song that was kind of came close to being a hit, called Drown. That one's a little more rock, but then a lot of it is like country, and there's some light bluegrass on it, but mixed with alternative rock. So I think it's a nice middle ground where, like, if you don't really have that like sort of taste for country, there's just enough country in there to be different than the rock you might listen to sort of scratch that itch. But
the thing with country with me is just quickly is that because of where I live, I don't.
No,
but if I had if I moved to Texas, I'd be like, all right, now you gotta start telling me what good country music to listen to, because like I'm in Texas now.
The thing is, though, I don't know that I would just trust the average person with that.
No, I don't mean average person. Because that's pop. Yeah,
a lot of country is bad.
Right. I mean, like, eventually you hope to meet up with some older guy that's like, oh, like you listen to the da-da-da-da.
Yeah, and like if you want something that leans more towards rock, but it's sort of on there, Sun Volt's a good choice. If you like the Americana side of things, like things that are, a little more folky, like a lot of folk music influence and maybe a little bluegrass influence, but also with a bunch of country in there, and like occasionally touches of rock and stuff like that too. The Avett Brothers are terrific.
You've mentioned them before, I think.
Yeah, really great band. Good stuff.
Anything that sounds like I love Dolly Parton, I love Kenny Rogers, like those kind of like my parents listened. I mean, I guess everybody at some point, parents were listening to.
Well, I mean, Kenny Rogers was like the biggest guy in the world.
Yeah, but that kind of like I do like that, but nobody's singing that anymore. So
we are probably boring the shit out of people talking about country. We should probably move on. All right, so what's your next?
My next one, I remember exactly where I was. Same thing where I heard this. It's kind of funny that like you remember like that. Movies. I'm a big movie person, but I can't think of like the first time I saw Goonies. I just have seen it a million times.
Right.
But with music, it's like I remember where I was.
Mm-hmm.
One by Metallica.
Oh, that's a cool. Yeah, that's a. Yeah.
It was the first Metallica song I ever heard. Same thing. I went over to my friend Dan's house. He was a big Metallica fan. Well, I didn't know that at the time. We were just sitting, just nothing to do, just sitting at his table. His mom's not home. His glass, like the stereo, the silver stereo in the glass, kind of wobbly.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
Thing just sitting there between like the kitchen and the table. We're just sitting at the table. And that just came on. He didn't like say, "Oh, you got to hear this." It just came on, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
It was like dark. Again, listening to. This was before I heard Nirvana and stuff, obviously, because this was like earlier. But I was listening to hair band music and stuff like that. So like hearing this like dark, like at the time prior to them. Motley Crue was dark,
right?
And like think about that.
Well, that's because their videos were like the goofy, like the black leather, and they were like in the trying to be like we're devil guys. Yeah.
So that was like, oh my God, this was like, oh, these lyrics are like, what are they singing? Like, these lyrics are pretty rough. And then just the music and how that again builds, it gets faster and all that stuff. And that was another moment where I was like, I gotta, like, what is this album? What the fuck is this? Where can I get kind of moment?
Totally understandable. And a great record too.
Yeah.
The whole record is fantastic. Hell, we could probably do just a Metallica episode. though I feel like that Metallica discussion has been had by so many people, and it's almost always the same discussion of like, this is when they were their best, and then here's when they sold out, and here's blah 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 blah.
They put on a good live show. I saw them.
I mean, they're they're legendary live, and there's a reason why, even despite the backlash that they've experienced over the years, they are still like one of the biggest touring bands out there, is because they put on these epic 2-3 hour shows.
They've performed on every continent.
That is true,
including Antarctica.
Yeah, one is a good choice. I grew up surrounded by metalheads, so even though I wasn't liking the thrash metal stuff like Megadeth and Metallica and Anthrax. And Slayer, the big four. I heard them all the time because I was like surrounded by people who that's what they listened to, and I didn't get into Metallica until I think And Justice for All came out.
Oh, okay.
And that's when it clicked with me. I did like some stuff on Master of Puppets. I remember really liking Sanitarium.
That's my favorite album. I love that just because of like more being like nostalgic wise.
Yeah. And I think those two in particular hold up fantastic. I've never been a fan of Kill 'Em All, the first record.
Yeah.
And I like about half of Ride the Lightning, and then half of it but I think it's also because the on the first two records the production is a little thin. It doesn't have the weight that later the stuff that followed had, like just the audio weight of it. Though my favorite, other than those two are my favorites from them, but third is actually the that little EP that they put out between Master of Puppets and Justice for All, the 598.
Oh yeah.
Just cover songs and stuff like that. Yeah, I love that stuff. So all right, so I'm glad that you picked a heavy song, because my next one is a heavy song, and it was the reason why it clicked. And it was similar to your earlier story. My friend Adam picked me up. We were gonna head out to the mall. We're driving to the mall. I actually remember where we were on the road when he put this in. He's like, "You got to hear this." He pops in the tape, and the start of the song was just this sort of build up of like sound coming in, like like some guitars are starting to come in, and then all of a sudden, boom, like the riff came down, and it was the heaviest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Boston.
More Than a Feeling, baby.
Was it? Am I right?
No.
I have a fucking hysterical. I've been like, what?
Boston.
More Than a Feeling.
Hands All Over from Soundgarden.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that riff is just.
Soundgarden, is one of those bands that.
Oh my! It was just the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. It was like somebody took Sabbath and they were like, Sabbath isn't heavy enough. like this isn't dark and heavy enough. It needs to be heavier.
Yeah.
Like, but this goes up to 11.
Yeah.
Like, it just blew my mind. I was like, how can music get this heavy? Like how can it be? And then of course, and the lyrics, of course, it was similar to like the Jane song. The lyrics were getting me too, because the whole refrain is you got to kill your mother. Of course, he's talking about Mother Earth, but
right.
That didn't fully click with me at the time. I was just like, he can say that? Oh yeah, that.
Soundgarden was one of those. Soundgarden, and this could just be in the world I was living at the time, was always those bands that like grunge hit and everybody like all these bands, and Soundgarden was there. And their music was so good, and like you said, it hit really hard. But for somehow they were always like a lane behind a layer of in like the MTV world, I guess you would say, or something.
Well, I think
know at some point when Black Hole Sun and they started pumping out like the music videos, it became.
I think for a lot of people who that era was their formative era for music, and if you got into the quote unquote grunge scene, the Seattle scene, and all that. You were kind of like, generally your circle was going to be, you were going to be a Pearl Jam circle or a Nirvana circle or an Alice in Chains circle or a Soundgarden circle, right? You were going to be...
Yeah, you were putting, like, everyone was like, like, I loved Alice in Chains.
Right, so one of those bands was always going to be, like, not...
Yeah, not the one.
Right.
And I guess in my circle, like, Soundgarden somehow was the one that... we all had their CDs and shit, and they were great, but for some reason they were not like somebody's specific favorite.
The thing that I appreciate about Soundgarden is that Hands All Over was the one that sort of caught my ear and drew me to them. But unlike a lot of these bands where we sort of caught them in their magic moment. Soundgarden only continued to get better.
Yeah, they did.
Like progressively, they just got better and better. Remember, the next album was, of course, their big breakthrough Without Shine and all that. Though it was Jesus Christ Pose that kind of blew my mind from that.
Jesus Christ Pose.
Because again, like super heavy and like the lyrics and all that. But then that the next record was even better, and their final record was like might be their best one. Like their last they ended on such an incredible note. Not ended. They did some stuff much later, King Animal and
but
so
on.
their intro period. Yeah, like they actually progressively got better the entire time. Whereas a lot of bands, it was like you caught them when they were at their very best.
Yeah.
Them, I just kind of like it was a journey with them for me because they were never. Even after like discovering that particular song, like they weren't like my top 3 of like the Seattle and grunge and all that. And it wasn't until late as the years went on, like as I'm listening to Down on the Upside and their later material, I was like, wow, like their songwriting is like so much more mature here and just like they just got better and better.
Yeah, the lyrics are heavy. Chris Cornell's lyrics are actually real heavy.
Yeah, and it took me a while to like fully appreciate just how good they actually were. They were.
When I hear them now, I'll use Pandora or whatever, and I'll just pick like Soundgarden's channel basically, and then you hear them again, and like you're hearing the lyrics different and the music different. You're like, damn, like I feel like this is better. Like I'm not going back and listening to much of Nirvana. I mean, very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl Jam, like, but Soundgarden will be like, now I'm like, oh shit, man, this song was like good.
Their stuff holds up just fantastic, and it helps that the band collectively was an incredible band.
Yeah,
like for those later records, Matt Cameron was there on drums, and he's a phenomenal drummer. The actual band of musicians were great, and of course Chris Cornell has like one of the best voices in rock history. Yeah, because he could do everything.
Yeah.
Basically, he could do everything. They were fantastic, and they've only, like I said, I've only grown in my love for them over the years because it was like, it took me a while to unpeel just how good they actually were.
So are we gonna do honorable mentions real quick?
Yeah, we could do a couple honorable mentions. I could probably like discuss even like I'm gonna do 2 honorable mentions. I could probably go at length on them, but I won't.
Well, honorable mention, I got 3, but I'm just gonna say their name. I'm just gonna say them. I don't know.
I mean, you could talk.
Okay, but we'll make it short. But REM, obviously, Orange Crush was the first REM song that I ever heard.
Great pick.
I was listening. REM was that in between band too, like before Nirvana and stuff. That was like 87, 88. That's when I kind of went from listening to Billy Joel to like, oh, I'm listening to this the college radio band from REM. Orange Crush, and then I don't have the songs, I just have the bands because I don't remember what the first songs were, but Tool and Rage Against the Machine.
Okay, let's see. So one of my 3 honorable mentions. The first one, Killing the Name of, Rage Against the Machine. I can still remember when I first heard it, and myself and my friend Jeff at the time were both just sort of like, yeah, this is it. This is speaking for us.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it is. The amazing thing is that now, even though I still absolutely love the riff and the groove, I kind of hate now how repetitive the lyrics are in the song.
Yeah, if you listen to them, you're like, oh, this is the same. This is
still fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. So Killing the Name of, Rage, huge influence, very mind blowing, and for like being an angry 20-something, the angry 20-something that I was at the time.
Blasted that out of your car.
Oh, hell yeah. You hit it exactly the right time. Number 2 is Only Shallow by My Bloody Valentine. It's the opening song from Loveless, which is one of my favorite records of all time. Probably no other record has influenced me as much as Loveless, and that one just sort of blew my mind. I remember the first time hearing it and thinking, like, the CD's fucked up. Like the CD's broken. Like, this CD technology is flawed. It's messed up. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to sound, but that's the way it was supposed to sound. Just fantastic. And anyone who knows my taste in music knows, you know how much I like that strange guitar sounds and layers and all that sort of stuff. And MBV was all about that. Only Shallow. And then the third, this is an odd one. Arc by Neil Young, and Arc is, I guess you can call it a song. It's a 30-minute piece patched together from various concerts where he took guitar feedback and noise and bullshit from their live shows and strung it together into like a half an hour noise collage, sound collage, and that was kind of mind blowing to me, because it kind of opened up the door towards the kind of abstract sonic soundscapes that I'm really, really drawn to now, and I have been sort of ever since. I'm really into noise stuff. I'm really into sort of creating these layers and soundscapes and all that. And this was like one of the first times, and it was by a mainstream dude. It was like, wait a minute, this is Neil Young. What is this? He was actually encouraged to do it by Sonic Youth.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Because Sonic Youth were fans and all that, and he was sort of making he had a bad lull in the 80s where he kind of disappeared. He was making music that wasn't resonating with people. He made a rock comeback, and Sonic Youth, like knowing his live shows and all that, they were like, you should do something with that. Yeah. And so he sort of did it as like a bonus disc with the Arc and Weld live double album. So it was like a third bonus disc, this half an hour thing. And that was like, wow, what is this? It's sort of almost had the sort of same influence on me as the second half of Smashing Pumpkins' Drown, which is from the single soundtrack. And that's the Pumpkin song. Starts off quiet, gets loud, but then it ends with like 5 minutes of feedback, of just guitar feedback with like, just a little bass and drums in the background keeping a rhythm, but it's just like guitar feedback. And that to me was always like, that sound was like music. If music can be that, like those things open up an entirely different
it opens
world
your mind to being like, oh, that can be music too.
Yeah, and I went down rabbit holes that I just have never climbed back out of exploring that kind of music, and those things really did that for me. So
I have one more that just popped in my head that I want to just mention, and it happened way longer than the band. Like, the band has been around for a long time, and our friend, and I remember who suggested, our friend John from Facebook. Mentioned to me like 7, 8, 9 years ago, and I was like, what the fuck? It was Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus.
Oh yeah, that's a
and I never even like listened to them or anything, and I don't know if he suggested it specifically to me or if he just in response to something posted that, and I was like, what is this? And I played it, and I remember just listening to the whole thing and being like, oh shit, this is like, how did I never find this back when I was like a teenager?
Yeah. I love those experiences. Love them. So I want to hear about other experiences in the comments, because I'm sure like there's going to be different some of the, maybe there'll be some of the same songs, but there's going to be lots of different ones, and I want to hear what they are. I want to know who the first person who says Head Like a Hole is. I feel like that's going to be a pick for some people, but I want to know what they are, regardless of genre. I don't care about the genre.
It'd be actually fun if it's like some genre we didn't mention.
I mean, I know we have some metalhead viewers. I don't know if we have too many in rap and hip hop, but I would like to hear some of that stuff.
There's a lot of people overseas.
Oh yeah,
in Europe, so I'm sure their songs are completely, stuff that they listen to.
That would be fair. Yeah, I'd love to hear stuff like that. Like, right, like, if somebody's first exposure to excellent music out of Japan, like, what was that? My favorite Japanese band is Plastic Girl in Closet. It's a great name, and they're an excellent band. Well, though, of course, given my mention of My Bloody Valentine earlier, anyone who listens to Plastic Girl in Closet will understand why I'm drawn to them, because they're very... even pop stuff, like, right? You heard a Madonna song, and it was like, my God!
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah, whatever it is, let's hear it. Let's hear about some music. Let's get some good music discussion in the comments, and then we should probably talk about what we're going to do for dinner.
Yes, I'm very hungry.
Yeah. Okay, so...
That's music. Guns N' Roses.